Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. I hope you guys are all having a fun week. On this edition, we will have our regular lineup. We have a couple of privacy articles, some security, AI news, business, and SillyVille. We'll cover all of those today. In the upcoming weeks, I'm planning on doing some, I want to get some Nextcloud tutorials in. I have the software downloaded. I just need to see if I can get that software working and configured right. And we have a few more distros to look at, although I do need to download a couple more. So we're going to be looking at doing that in the upcoming days as well. So that we're going to have some more, hopefully at least one tutorial in the upcoming week. And we also, in about 9 days, we will release the next Supporters short story. It's a long short story. It's like 8,000 words, twice as long as I want them to be, but I already have it written, so that's good. For those that are Patreon or other supporters, Patreon, Think Life Media, Locals, or Subscribestar. Did I forget any? I think I got them all. You can, if you've not read last week's story, you can do that. And I also dropped the exclusive video kind of explaining the background on that story. I just did that the other day. So that is a unlisted video on Rumble. So you can watch that, and that's linked to all of the supporter platforms. And you can still download the audiobook of that particular one for about the next 9 days as well. So if you want to listen to the book instead of read it, you can go ahead and download that. Again, all of those links are on the supporters channels. So you can go ahead and see what those are. All right, let's go ahead and get on into the news there. Let me make sure my camera is all set up right. I think we're good. All right, so first up, Facebook argues Australians' user data harvested in a Cambridge Analytica scandal is not sensitive data. So Meta was challenging the court case that they lost, requiring them to pay lots of money. They're like, come on, man, we got away with paying only 25 cents to all those American dimwits who gave all of our information on Facebook. You want us to do even more? I mean, come on. So they're arguing that the private messages, pictures, email addresses, and content of Facebook user profiles are not sensitive information. Now, granted, they are putting it on the internet, so maybe there's maybe it shouldn't be considered sensitive information if you're putting it on the internet, but that happens to be that. So anyway, that's what they're doing. They're arguing that this is not really information. So whatever that is worth, Facebook has lost its ever-loving mind because they don't think any information that they can gather or harvest or buy or sell or trade is personally identifiable information. That's all just business assets for them. It's just business assets you don't get to take part in. So, From Proton tells us privacy washing. We're seeing a lot of this coming up, where companies are on one side of their mouths are talking about how green they are. On the other side, they're about as bad for the environment as, volcanoes or something. Google claims to support privacy, but they are lobbying against it. As an example, look at like Apple. They're doing these extraordinarily cringe. If you watch it on, I think it was on Band News, where Apple did the cringy board meeting with Mother Nature showed up, right? And they're like, we're all green. We're meeting all of our green sustainability. Yeah, this is Rich from a company that will not sell you a 30-cent transistor to fix the device and will happily prosecute and destroy everybody's life who attempts to get one such thing to prevent one of your phones from making its way into the waste bin of history, lithium battery and all. This is the same company that runs otherwise good devices through shredders so nobody can harvest the parts to fix other things. Yeah, not exactly green. Well, Google is doing the same thing. Of course, every company now has talked about being private. And this is why you don't see me pitching these privacy companies. I'm sorry, the best degree of privacy you can have is to not give this data up to the company to begin with. That's the best form of privacy you can have. Figure out how to do it yourself. That's why we do a lot of tutorials how to do it. So you're not going to see me being sponsored by so-and-so private company, so-and-so privacy company. Give us all of your information, and we're a privacy company. It's going to make sure all of your information you just gave us is not going to leak out. Where are you putting that? Oh, you're putting the information somewhere that could possibly leak and bought and sold and traded as well. Very interesting. Yeah. Now, call me crazy, but I'm not actually going to do that. So with that though, Google is claiming to support privacy like every company is, because it's quasi trendy. It's trendy enough that people want to be like, it's private, and tell themselves that, but they're not actually, it's not actually trendy enough for them to do anything about it. But what their research is here, that Proton dug into this a little bit, is they talked about Google on the one hand talking about, this is what they said. The Google CEO said, privacy is the heart of everything that we do. Tell me another Monty Python joke. So behind closed doors are telling a different story to policymakers and actively fighting against the privacy laws. So we're seeing this proliferation of privacy laws that, as I'm reading through these, none of them have any teeth. None of them protect privacy. All of it just boils down to Congress's idea of a privacy law right now is literally a law that the company has to tell people what they're doing. That, like, this is not a privacy bill. This is a privacy, this is a lack of privacy knowledge bill. This is a lack of privacy disclosure bill. But what Google is doing is they are going around and writing most of the bills that most of the states are passing so that they can put things in there that protect their particular business model, or they can carve out exceptions for companies like Google or even possibly like Facebook. And it boils down to data collection, mostly for the purpose of privacy or of advertising. I'm not a huge fan of this, right? I am not at all a huge fan of it. I looked at this and said, look, privacy means we're not going to be used for targeted ads. Targeted ads are not the problem, but that's the straw man of the problem. If you understand the logical fallacy of the straw man, the reason it's called a straw man is you set up something that isn't actually the thing you are, and then you beat that thing to death instead so that you can distract from what you're doing over here. That's the straw man logical fallacy. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, have all this stuff about personally identifiable information used to target ads to beat up the scarecrow of targeted ads. Meanwhile, over here on the other side, they're doing something entirely different. And that's what we have to be aware of. So we have to be more cautious, and we have to be more proactive in making sure that Google is not involved in the privacy laws that are being passed through various states and places around the world. From 404, I think this is our first article from 404. Is this a new publication? I've seen it pop up more recently in a few different places. This one was posted in the Matrix server. Food delivery robots are feeding camera footage to the LAPD, internal email shows. Now, this is not as bad as it sounds yet. And we say the caveat of yet, because basically they fed data from their food delivery robots. So the company, I think the company is called Serve Robotics. So they are one of the companies selling these devices, these little robots that are effectively, now we're cutting out the Uber drivers, by the way. So you order your food on Uber, and instead of Uber paying the individual poor driver who's just looking to make enough money to put gas in his car, now they're outsourcing that to Serve Robotics. So the little robot goes like R2-D2 up into the restaurant. Some staffer at the restaurant throws the food into the thing, and then the robot down the road, and it shows up. It shows up at the targeted location, and then extracts its payload of Chinese food for you, or whatever it is. All right. So what happened, though, is a number of people are trying to steal these devices, because who wouldn't want their own little pet, robot, food delivery robot? It's like a digital butler or something. And the butler did it, by the way. I mean, come on. So people are trying to steal it. So they provided the emails and information to the LAPD, start the investigation. And of course, the LAPD, utilizing the information, was able to recover the robot. Well, actually, I think the robot left the scene. They were able to apprehend the would-be thieves of the robot. But the point being here, and the concern people have, is that these things are roaming around the streets, collecting all sorts of data, cameras, geolocations, and things like this, that would be a very easy thing. So what if instead of saying, well, you can't do a geo-fence warrant, what if they could say, hey, there was a crime that went on and one of your little robots was there. Could we see the footage of that? And maybe the robot took a picture of whoever was involved in the crime. And so that is a possible use case scenario. But the only time we know for sure that this company gave data to the LAPD was in their own case that they initiated. But LAPD is like, this is a neat little thing. And there have been negotiations about using the stuff, whatever data it has. The problem is that this company has a privacy policy, and every bit of the privacy policy deals with the third-party customer whose food is inside of the thing. It says nothing about the data it collects while it roams through the streets, possibly roaming through private areas, and otherwise taking pictures of things all around it without the people around it being able to have any say. So if I do not want my likeness being used on these company servers, I don't have any recourse. But technically, if you challenged it, you could probably get yourself out of something on the basis that you don't have any contractual agreement with this company. However, if they're operating entirely in public spaces, you don't have a leg to stand on anyway, because privacy laws in the United States are insane. So that is interesting, but it's very possible that we are going to see more of these things being used by police, whether it's directly by the police, they own the robots, or if it's just third-party type stuff. There is, if you scroll down to the bottom, there is actually a YouTube channel that follows these robots around and exposes the nonsense, like the time that the robot rolled through an active crime scene under the police tape and everything, rolling through the dead bodies. But there is a YouTube channel. You can go ahead and watch that. And on to our final article here for privacy today. School surveillance tech does more harm than good, according to a new report by the ACLU. And this boils down to the basic things that you would expect. First and foremost, a lot of schools are buying into these services. According to this, in 2021, U.S. schools and colleges spent $3.1 billion. That's mostly tax funded. $3.1 billion on student surveillance technology. The number is expected to grow by 8% every year. These companies just coming down saying, hey, just outsource all of your security and stuff to us. The companies come down and say, we prevent self-ending. We prevent SV. We can limit bullying and harassment. Yeah, tell me another Monty Python joke. Yeah, the surveillance camera is going to limit bullying and harassment. Yeah, I don't think so. Now, ACLU report came out and said there is absolutely zero research that they do any of these three things. In fact, quite to the opposite, the presence of the security, according to the report, suggests that the students do not want to they don't feel the need to report anything to school administrators because they just assume that the surveillance has caught it. But even worse than that, most students, we're talking, I think it was over 65% of students, they do not like the tech. They feel like they're always being watched. They feel like nobody trusts them, and they feel like they are becoming more distant with the administrators and the teachers of the school because they feel like nobody trusts them. And in an academic situation, if there is not trust between the student and the teacher, then effective teaching cannot occur. And that really is a problematic thing. And so that really is the summary report of the ACLU. You can have a look at the report yourself. But it's not good. This doesn't do anything. And the school surveillance, it's just about making money. It's not about protecting anybody. And now we have to worry about what information is on what servers related to all of these minors that have all these things. That we really need to ask some serious questions about this, audit these companies. What happens when a security breach happens and people gain access to all this video surveillance of, minor students who leaked out on the internet? Because it's going to happen, because, these companies with they would like to take home as much of that $3.1 billion as they can. And they can do that by reducing costs by, outsourcing it to the cheapest contractor who can do the nearest work. And, cheap contractors are not particularly good at securing AWS calendars and things like that. So data does indeed get leaky. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting A2 Hosting. I've used A2 Hosting for a while when I was working with a lot of different client sites. Some of my clients are still on it, although they are running their own accounts. I just manage their accounts from there. The only reason I jumped off it is because I host so many websites. It's just more cost effective for me to host them on my own private servers instead. But A2 Hosting is really good if you're looking for just a good web hosting service for a small business website or some personal project. I have run Nextcloud on this. My Nextcloud server ran on this for a long time. And there's a lot of other things you can do with this as well. TLM.li/A2H is going to help support the channel. And there are a variety of different hosting plans that you can get. Don't do this most popular WordPress hosting. WordPress hosting is a sham. Just get your shared hosting and push the update button on your WordPress website. Just go ahead and mention that to you first too. Even if I might make more money if you did this, I want you to have a better product. Don't do WordPress hosting. But you can use my affiliate link, tlm.li/A2H, for an excellent hosting company. And with that, let's move briefly through some security news. We have a couple different security news items here that were worth mentioning. First, we have a global CRM provider expose millions of client files online. Now, a CRM to leak is a very dangerous thing. So if you're unfamiliar with the business term of a CRM, this is a client or a client relationship manager. And the big problem with a CRM, the biggest example of this is Salesforce, which to my knowledge was not involved in this breach. But the big problem with a CRM breach is CRMs are those backdoor things that companies do to try and make sales. So they have collected and harvested your data from wherever they're doing, and they have entered it into their CRM without your knowledge and without your consent. And then they're going to use this to cold call you and contact you and try and sell you whatever nonsense they're trying to sell you. And then they leave all of the notes about their interactions with you inside of the CRM. So again, what makes this really dangerous is that the CRM has data that has no way, shape, or form any form of consent with the people whose data is actually in it. That is the problem with the CRM and why I wanted to cover this. Now, the good news for you guys is the CRM mostly is going to be information on businesses, not as much for personal people, but it really does depend on what the business model is. Now, in this case, this is global B2B CRM provider, Really Simple Systems. So if you're using Really Simple Systems, a very good chance all of your records were leaked on the internet. And they are a company, and this is why, like, if you want to do a CRM, you should do a self-hosted thing like Sweet CRM, which is it is a FOSS alternative to Sugar CRM. And if by self-hosting it, you definitely reduce your target. The problem with a lot of these big centralized systems like Dropbox, like your Google services, like Really Simple Systems, is that it is a cloud provider that one company has access to tons and tons and tons of businesses' internal data. In this case, suppose you got 10,000 businesses, and each of those 10,000 businesses has 1,000 clients. You've just leaked, what is that, 10 million or so data files on people that never consented to have their data in there to begin with. And that really is the problem. And so what happened here is it was an insecure bucket, and the data leaked. Anybody with an internet access and a particular URL could land on this place. They were able to harvest 2.5 million DAT files, 50,000 image files, 101,000 invoices, customer names, addresses, CRM plain details, and other type of file extensions in the system. Massive data breach. Basically, anybody who has been targeted by any company that might have used any of these CRMs, you very possibly just leaked all of your data out, which is problematic. All right. So the second article here is dealing with a phishing campaign targeted to U.S. executives exploiting a flaw in the Indeed job search platform. So you know that corporate executives are generally not the most tech-savvy people. These are the guys that also insist that we got to insist everything works perfectly fine, guys. Why is this thing not working? It's not turned on, sir. What do you mean it's not turned on? I've turned it on. Sir, it's not turned on. What do you mean it's not turned on? Sir, it's not turned on. I need IT here. No! IT shows up and turns it on. That's the type of level guy we're talking about most of the time. All right. So in this case here, the victim, so in this case would be a corporate executive, maybe somebody in an HR, somebody responsible for receiving job applications. They receive a phishing email with an Indeed link. The victim clicks on the Indeed link inside the mail, redirecting him to the phishing page. The phishing page looks like a legitimate website, and it's going to go in and use a Microsoft Office MFA. So again, we talked briefly about centralization in the last one. If everybody in the world is using Microsoft to manage their businesses, these phishing campaigns tend to work. See, if you tried to send this thing to me and then I land on a page that's like, log into your Microsoft account, I ain't got one of those. You know, I have this thing. I manage my businesses on my own resources. I'm not outsourcing it to Microsoft. Sorry. But that's why it is working. They're using the evil proxy, which is, once again, that very popular, ever-present MFA stealing thing that's going to take a clone of your browser, deploy it somewhere else, and this is the very thing that bypasses 2FA and MFA. So all these people running around, you gotta have MFA in your accounts. It don't work, guys. It don't make any difference. You just stick to your complicated passwords, because if you stick to your complicated passwords and then you go ahead and enter your passwords every single time you log into the site and you don't stay logged into the site, there's nothing for the browser to steal. All right? There's nothing for the browser to steal. And so that's why this is working. Of course, another centralized breach, Dropbox users are targeted by a devious new phishing campaign. So these are actually emails that look like they're coming from Dropbox. They're not. So in this case here, it's once again another one of the phishing scams. It looks like it's from Dropbox. You're landing onto the Dropbox email, and then if you go ahead and take the bait and give them your credentials, they have now gotten into it. So Checkpoint recently observed a brand new phishing campaign abuses cloud storage platform to get people to click on malicious links. Nearly impossible for email security services to stop, and it's equally difficult for victims to identify, they said. Why is it doing this? Because they are legitimate emails from Dropbox. They're just linking to malicious files on Dropbox. That sounds wonderful. And a much more terrifying one, millions of Exim mail servers exposed to a zero-day attack. And this deals with the mail transfer agent and the authentication, remote code execution on internet exposed servers. Sadly, this is the default mail server inside of Debian. And so there is a good possibility for a lot of servers to be exposed on this. And even worse is that the people reported this to Exim, and Exim ignored it. And then they reported it again, and Exim ignored it again. And they finally, after all this stuff went out, they're like, whoa, we got fixes in the works for these. And so hopefully there will be some things. So if you see some Exim updates in Debian soon, go ahead and patch those. There are right now 5 different vulnerabilities inside of these. And so I think 3 of them are completely fixed. The other 2 they are working on. Just be aware that that's problematic. Of course, what was their solution? Just take it off the internet. It's an email server. It can't come off the internet. What are you, one of those corporate CEOs? Jeez. Can you just turn it off the internet? Sure, but you won't get an email. Okay, we've taken it off the internet. Why am I not getting an email? You got to put the thing on the internet. What? Come on, man. Oh, they make me laugh. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page over on our Patreon page and our other supporter pages, Patreon, Subscribe, Star, Locals, and Think Life Media. If you are on over there, you can get access to our exclusive short stories related to modern scientific tech and things like that. And we have a exclusive video that goes along with it. And also you can participate in the live stream on Thursday night or the off-camera hangout. You can go ahead and jump on any of those. So patreon.com/TOMM if you want to jump on over and help support the channel over on Patreon. You can see here's our backup stuff. Here's our latest science fiction thing. You got to be a Patreon member to get in there and see it. There you go. Well, we're going to go ahead and do our AI news next. Short section this week, but we had a couple fun things. All right, Meta debuts a generative AI features for advertisers. Great. Now we're actually going to have AI-generated ads over on Facebook. Of course, if you follow this channel, you don't really care because you're not on Facebook. Unfortunately, this is probably going to start bleeding its way into other places, so we're going to see generative AI. Now, it doesn't create things out of absolutely nothing. You still have to give it a basic idea. You have to give it basic keywords. But then what it's going to do is it's going to look through your branding, it's going to look through your product images, and it's going to create generative images out of that. And based on the draft of the content, like the marketing pitch that you give it, it's going to rewrite that with a few different wordings and allow you to much more easily do A/B testing. So we're going to probably see a lot more spammy AI-driven advertising crammed into Facebook. But hey, once again, if you're following this channel, you're probably not using Facebook anyway. So what do you care? But that's what they're doing. So, you got to give them kudos for trying. But they're also trying some other fun things. Meta is using your public Facebook and Instagram posts to train its AI. Post anything publicly on Facebook or Instagram, it's likely they are using that to train their AI. So this is just your target to start trolling these things. Of course, think about the deeper consequences of this, though. Facebook is a very censorious social media platform, Meta in general, so Facebook, Instagram, all of their things. And so as they are doing these and they are censoring more and more things, as more stuff comes out being censored by Facebook, then they're utilizing that content to train their AI. Our AI is going to be super censorious. That is going to be a very, very strange thing to see. An AI that is literally a disinformation dystopia, because anything that's critical or conversational or scientific, any of that thing, you're not allowed to say it on these platforms. And my watch is telling me I just finally reached my goal, so I should do this more often. Goal! All right. But not goal for putting all your stuff up on Facebook. And then, of course, their AI is going to become kind of crazy. It's going to kind of be like Tay. Kind of weird. And, of course, another AI church service. So I actually did an article on AI and church services on Stream. If you head on over to stream.org, stream.org, go up to the search bar up there and type in my name, Murosky. You'll find the two articles that I wrote for them. Soon it will be a few more articles up there. I have one is already in our publishing queue, and the other one is, it's still sitting on my computer waiting to be edited some more. But we'll have more over there. But one of those is AI and God. And we talk about the dangers of this and what is going on. Now, the first AI service I think they said it was run like 80 or 90% by ChatGPT, including ChatGPT avatars, delivering a sermon, doing praise music and stuff like that. That happened in Germany, I believe. I cover that, and I cover a lot of other weird robotics and AI stuff being used inside of religion in that article on stream.org. But this one here is another church service that came up. A Texas Methodist church hosts service created completely by ChatGPT. And how do you reckon that went? AI church is here. No more pastor or God really necessary. That's really the problem. Now, at the same time I did that article, one of the editors of Stream did another linked article. You'll find it linked in mine, where he kind of talked about the idea that this that crazy robotics historian guy from Israel was trying to say that, hey, now that AI is here, we'll finally have a perfect religion. Yeah, good luck with that. So you can find all that stuff over there. This story comes out of Texas, which might surprise you until you realize it comes from North Austin. Of course. The church says they're in the midst of an AI takeover. The Violet Crown City Church and a small Methodist church in North Austin used ChatGPT to prepare and present the entire service. The pastor, Jay Cooper, had this to say about the service. The idea to create an AI-generated worship service came from my belief that the church should not only be aware of the most pressing issues of our world, but also actively engaged in them. AI is definitely one of those tools. One of those issues I wanted to incorporate into our community life in such a way that it would make an impact. The initial reason we offered this admittedly unorthodox service was to inform our congregation about AI and to understand the potential and the limitations. First, to invite us to consider the nature of truth and challenge the assumptions about what God can make sacred and inspired. I can sympathize with the idea of saying, hey, we want to use this to illustrate what it can do, but I would under no circumstance call this worship. I would probably leave that be like the Bible study night or a Sunday night, something that would not be a traditional worship, and be like, hey guys, we're going to do an interesting social experiment and do an AI thing, and then we're going to, as 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 tells us, examine everything carefully, hold fast that which is good, abstain from every form of evil. We're going to throw this thing into there. We're going to see what it does, and then we're going to talk about what was good, what was bad, and what do we do when this stuff starts overtaking the church. That would be a much better place to go. So here is their Facebook promo for it. Of course, Michael Vick says the new Antichrist just dropped. There you go. So there are some mixed responses to that particular church service, but there's that. What can you say? There's all sorts of fun stuff. Well, if you want to get a cool alien in a tinfoil hat like I'm wearing right here, you can find that over on shop.switchedtolinux.com, as well as coffee cups, t-shirts, baby onesies with aliens on it. Yeah, man. Here's some hats, and then we have hoodies. We have mouse pads and a bunch of other stuff over there on the site. You can go ahead and jump on over to the site, shop.switchedtolinux.com. You can find yourself some fun little Switch to Linux apparel. With that, we'll head on over to our business news next. All right, first up in business, HeyBet is an Airbnb-style platform aimed at longer stays and flexible living. It raises $42 million in angel investing. And so this one here, I first looked at this like, oh, this is probably bad. And it's not as bad as Airbnb. And to be clear, my problem with Airbnb is that people come in, buy up Airbnbs as investment properties, and there's fewer single-family homes on the market for actual people seeking to live in the area. So it drives up prices for everybody. And I really do not like the Airbnb model. I think there needs to be heavy regulation on anything that allows somebody to come in and just buy up all the single family homes if they're not going to be living in it. This is where zoning is, right? If we're talking about residential zoning, we shouldn't be having investment properties in the middle of residential zoning. That's the whole purpose. Now, Habitat, since their target is more long-term 6 to 9 month rentals, not just individual weeks or individual days and such. They actually originally were going to look at an Airbnb model, allowing everybody to have their own, but they're actually now working more directly with more commercial people instead. And so you'll probably get a little bit more institutional type or more apartment complex type rentals, but that might actually work pretty well. Overall, I just kind of see it as what's really the difference between this and a regular leasing office, other than, is there a mandatory 3 months off in the middle of it? I don't know. But it's a new company that's trying to do similar things to Airbnb. They're saying, though, that they do absolutely everything on the app. I didn't think Airbnb did anything not on the app, but apparently they do, according to this article. So there is a new thing coming. Now, this is actually a company that I believe started in Germany. However, they are looking to branch into the United States and other places as well. So they already have properties in Asia, Europe, Berlin, Madrid, Hong Kong, Singapore. and on track for full company profitability by 2024. So their focus is, as we said, more of like larger property managers. But still, I still think that we're going to see even more people buying even more investment properties in the case of this. That's probably what we're going to see. All right, Google might have a great idea for smart home automation if it sticks to it. The problem is Google tends to kill stuff. And so there was actually another Google thing in here originally as a candidate for the news. I did get rid of it just because of we had too many articles, and it was Google killing yet another thing. Like it was like something small and weird and insignificant, so we threw that one out. I thought it was like the big like business doodle boards, like the smart boards. Yeah, $5,000 later after only a few years. Yeah, those are killed now. So good luck with those. But the idea here is that Google wants to do a lot more for home automation. Now, it's not as bad as your regular Google services unless you start relying on this. It's more often just like probably an app that is tying into a variety of different home automation tools, but it allows you to utilize AI to set more complicated things. Like instead of saying a basic timer, you can go in for years, you get a basic timer that's, it turns on at 5 a.m, turns off at 6 o'clock at night, whatever. Something like a fish aquarium. You can put something like that on a timer or whatever else. Well, this you can do more complicated things like when the door unlocks, turn the light on for 3 minutes. And then when motion is detected, turn the lights on, unless the presence is no longer detected, but don't turn on the lights after 11 p.m., because there's a roaming cat running around here. If the light turns on 3 times within 5 minutes, keep them on for 10 minutes. So you can do more complicated algorithm things with this model. And so with that, it makes a little bit more sense. But again, it's just probably another thing. I wouldn't rely on it too much because Google tends to like taking its new inventions back behind the barn and digging another hole. But hey, as long as you're trying to do home automation, I just give you this advice: don't. If you need to have that like digital algorithms controlling your light switches, I think you probably have other problems, particularly like mental ones. You might want to go get that looked at. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of all that. PayPal faces a new antitrust lawsuit claiming it unfairly stifles competition with Stripe, Shopify, and more. This actually kind of ties into and piggybacks off of a similar case against credit card companies. What it boils down to is if you have PayPal as a payment option on your site, you cannot offer any discounts if somebody does something else. So if I use PayPal on my site to collect a payment for my service and I offer a variety of different things, I can't say, well, if you're gonna use a credit card through my bank's system instead of PayPal, it's going to cost you slightly less because PayPal's fees are astronomically high. So what happens is I have to put all of my products on my website at all the exact same prices, but if somebody chooses to use PayPal, I get less money for my product and PayPal gets more money for my product. And so that's what people are saying. Yeah, this kind of steers the rules that says, hey, if I want to choose to accept multiple forms of payments, but some payments cost me more money than other payments, it makes sense for me as a business owner to be able to say, hey, I'm going to pass this cost on to my customer because you're going to pay a little extra for that convenience of PayPal versus utilizing a different payment methodology. And so PayPal is throwing a hissy fit. Of course, they are a very, very, very anti-consumer company. And so they're basically doing these things. So there's a class action lawsuit coming up. And hopefully the end result is they change some of the policies and force PayPal to lift these restrictions and let the business owners do whatever they want. And if PayPal wants to make sure people are using their service rather than somebody else's, hey, they can stop being draconian jerks. There's a thought. Now this, as I mentioned, tied into something very similar to the old credit card disputes where and you'll see it a lot more now where you'll either have a minimum sale for using a credit card or they'll say like if you're using a credit card, it costs 3% more. And usually you'll see it like 3% discount if you pay with cash. They're not like cooking the books. They're just saying, hey, the credit card company charges me 3 or 4% as it is to run that process, that payment. And so it makes more sense if I can accept cash, not have to pay a middleman that extra 3 to 4%. And so credit card companies used to tell people you weren't allowed to do that. They lost that case. And so PayPal, the lawyers are arguing the same exact thing for PayPal as that, using that case as precedent for what PayPal's doing. So hopefully that works out. And on to our final story. This is just an end to the old activation codes for Windows. So if you have a Windows computer and you can still get it to upgrade, that still works. But if you have a random Windows 7 or Windows 8 key after a certain version of Windows 11, you can no longer use that. And that version of Windows is 24H2 rejects the Windows 7 key, but 22H2 still accepts it. So the workaround right now, if you still have keys for 7 or 8 and you want to use them, I just download that 22H2, activate your Windows, and then upgrade up to the 24H2, because once it's validated, you're good to keep using it. But after the 24H2 version, you can no longer utilize the old Windows keys. So if you have those old Windows application keys, activation keys, go ahead and use those quickly with that. Otherwise, you're going to have to buy some new ones because they're finally closing that. Now they said you could no longer do that at July 29th, 2016. But yeah, they forgot to flip the switch, I guess, or just didn't care to flip the switch. So people were still able to activate old Windows installs based on those old keys. You can now officially no longer do this as of 24H2. So make sure you use those keys up pretty quick. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting DigitalOcean, tlm.li/DOH for DigitalOcean hosting. You're going to get $200 of credit, good for 60 days. You can try out all the products that you want, and you can test out your own Jellyfin servers or VPNs or restreaming servers or hosting or all sorts of fun stuff. You can do all sorts of neat stuff over there on DigitalOcean. Go ahead and check those out. tlm.li/DOH. And today we're going to head on over to our favorite place. That is going to be SillyVille. And first up in SillyVille, I just had to include this one because we've covered all of the KFC gaming stories. You know, the KFC gaming bucket computer combo and the VR, KFC VR. Well, this is a KFC sponsored Zelda speedrun, and somebody apparently won a $10,000 gold trophy. That'll buy you a lot of chicken. So it's basically just Legends of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Specifically, you had to go through the game bosses, collect one of the title's best weapons, and apparently collecting recipe stuff. I have no idea. I read this thing. I'm like, okay, I'm a boomer because I don't understand what's going on. They call this the recipe run. Required players to arrive at Bedrock Bistro with an empty inventory. Then they had to speak to Koron, called Gomo, affectionately nicknamed the Goronal by KFC due to his striking resemblance to the company's new mascot, the Colonel. After talking to Gomo, players then had to gather one of the raw bird drumstick and 11 other different herbs and spices as quickly as possible. Once they'd done this, they had to cook a fried chicken drumstick to compete for the run. And so somebody won a $10,000. Is this a real trophy? I don't know. No idea. It's SillyVille, man. KFC's doing more sponsored game stuff. What do you want, you know? Well, a traffic camera, of course, we know traffic cameras are annoying. This traffic camera catches a dog driving 7 miles over the speed limit. Woof, woof, Rover. All right, looks like this doggy's having one rough one. Oh, that hurts. Oh. So, the guy alleges that right before the camera was taken, the dog jumped onto his lap. But the police aren't buying that. They can see long up to it. The dog's basically sitting on his lap. The guy's doing one of these things to see around his dog, apparently. So they fined him for, driving with a dog on his lap, or guess. I don't know what the exact thing is. And, of course, the traffic camera also probably ticketed him $782,000 for going 6.8 miles over the speed limit. So there you have it. Just beware, and don't let your dog drive your car. That's a problematic thing. Wasn't that an old Disney movie? Well, the $10,000 plus gold Apple Watch is now obsolete, according to Apple. Point was never how it worked. Now it will be a struggle to work at all. So this $10,000 piece of digital irony is now completely obsolete. Of course, it being 7 years old now, the batteries probably cannot hold a charge. As the article points out, you might want to figure out how to get that battery out of there so it doesn't explode in the thing if you'd like to keep it around. And they also mentioned that the gold is probably a gold alloy, making it really not worth a lot. And so you spent $10,000 on a watch with a very short lifespan that basically become obsolete after only like 2 years because of how bad the technology was. And now they are effectively completely obsolete. Now they have zero functionality, zero syncing ability, no ability for any form of updates, and really not much in the way of repairing it. So if you happen to pay $10,000 for one of these watches, well, you're a more foolish guy than me. So that's all I can say. And on to our final article in SillyVille. A Malwarebytes report, after doing several surveys, determines that Gen Z fears physical violence from being online. Well, some mid-40s German soldier is going to reach out of the computer screen and slap you, kid. What do you want, you know? It does have a lot to do with they're worried about getting bullied for things that happen on the internet. So just looking at it, they polled 1,000 internet users between 13 and 77 in North America. They now reveal across all age groups, not just Gen Z, that the 10 biggest concerns about going online is hacked financial accounts, identity theft, and malware. 10 most common behaviors that can expose sensitive information to malicious actors, including sharing birthdays online, posting about children on social media, and participating in online giveaways that require personal details. Yeah, don't do any of those. The worrying percentage of people that monitor their romantic partner without online without consent. Broad failure to use the most effective cybersecurity protections, including antivirus, multi-factor authentication, which is not protection anymore. And let's see, that died fast. And a password manager. Yeah, we need to use a password manager. I'll agree with that. Antivirus, it depends on what you're using. Multi-factor authentication, yeah. Eye-popping number of people who reuse passwords. Yep. Most feared and least protected online threat. 81% about it, or 13 willing to do anything about it. It's just like they don't have anything to do, but it's basically like privacy concerns. Yeah. Most people are concerned about stuff. They're not willing to do anything about it. Great. Many Gen Zers have used generative AI tools like ChatGPT to cheat on school assignments. Can you imagine if like Einstein was doing that? We'd get stuck. We would have no basic foundation for anything in science if these people treated their academic success as modern students treat theirs. And the uphill battle that cybersecurity companies face because of the number of people who think there's no point in using cybersecurity products. You can download the whole report over there. It's like 20 some pages, and mostly it's just repeating these same points over and over. Effectively, Gen Z is most concerned about bullying, which is none of the summary points, but according to the report, Gen Z was most concerned about bullying because of things that are exposed about them on the internet. Somebody's a bad kisser, that gets out on Facebook and everyone bullies you because of that, whatever, you know. That's kind of what their whole idea was. Whatever. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a locals page, switchedtolinux.locals.com. You can find those science fiction short stories over there and all of the other community benefits that we have over there on locals. Jump on over there, and we'll see you there. With that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.